this afternoon. Want to call this meeting of the MDX board to order. If we could all stand up and I'll have I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Ms. Fano? Here. Ms. Gutierrez? Here. Mr. Meyer?
Present.
Ms. Weinberg? Here. Treasurer Martinez?
Here.
Secretary Wolf? Here. Vice Chair Board? Chair Jimenez?
Thank you very much. Okay. The approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion on the approval of the agenda?
Move.
It's been moved. Have a second? It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The agenda's been approved. Declaration of voting conflicts.
Do any members of the board have any conflicts with the two items on the agenda? Seeing none, we move forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Citizens' comments. Any citizen would like to come up and make any comments, please? We normally allow about 2 minutes. If you can give your name and your address for the record. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, board members. Lawrence Percival, President, Greater Kendall Community Activists Incorporated, 11945 Southwest 127 Court. Pardon me. I didn't plan appropriately. Yeah, it's better than the old ringtone I had on my other phone. Mr. Mayor, I hope that you'll give me a little flexibility in terms of time. I have not spoken before this board during your tenure as its chair, but I would like to say some things. If I really told you how I felt, you probably wouldn't want to hear it, so I'm not going to say those things. But I will tell you that since the early 2000s, I have been a voice in the Kendall community who has supported what this agency has done. I have said it time and time again. This agency is the most effective and efficient road building entity in the state of Florida. I believe it because I've seen the examples of it to be true. Now, you certainly have FDOT here and their capacity in building roads. And of course, on the local roads, we have Public Works. But we haven't had a good mesh between the agencies in getting things done efficiently. As an example, when 874 is built out and it comes out to 127th Avenue at 128th Street, you're going to build 1,000 feet south on 127th Avenue. Instead of taking it all the way down to 136th Street, you're going to stop there and it's going to stay as 2 lanes instead of being 4 lanes. So you're going to have 1 lane in each direction, and then after this beautiful road is built, you're going to experience a bottleneck that's going to be unbelievable. Coming from the south, people trying to get on to the new roadway are going to be backed up, and it's going to be an absolute mess. You have to acquire the right-of-way from FP&L to do that, but instead of joining together in forces and finding the wherewithal to make it happen, we're just going to kick the can down the road a little bit longer until the money's there for it to be a perfect project. But the things that this agency has done to bring forward a better road system has been commendable. And I hope that at the end of the day, when all is said and done and the politics of all of this are sorted through, this agency will be allowed to continue carrying out the mission that it has done efficiently and effectively. From my point of view, and obviously my point of view is different than a lot of people's in terms of their perspectives of how they don't like to pay tolls. Well, the paradigm has changed, Mr. Mayor. The paradigm has changed, and we're not generating monies from gas tax anymore the way we need to. And until we have sufficient revenue streams, how are we going to pay for the future for transit in this town? This agency has the ability to use its roadways to allow us to put transit on it. And most importantly, if the Kendall Parkway is allowed to move forward, at some point in time, we'll have transit there as well. And we begin to put together the pieces for a system, not just a strip going from Dadeland to the government center and up, well, now to the airport. But hopefully in time, during your tenure, you can put things in place that will allow the things that this entity has done to continue to move forward. And if your plan, as an example, is approved to have the heft under the wings of a new agency, that's not so bad from my point of view, if you can get the state politics to make that happen. But to disband this entity, to get rid of your executive director, in my estimation, is misguided, and it's unfortunate that that could happen, because the intellectual capacity, not only of the staff that's here, but even the board, the time that they've spent, and many of you have known me over the years, and you're familiar with who I am, and I've spoken my mind, as I always do, and it's not always the things you want to hear, but I've been honest to tell your board what they've needed to hear from time to time, and I've been a proponent in this community who's spoken loudly my views that they're efficient and effective, because they are. And other people may not like hearing what I have to say, but I believe that I've spoken the truth, and it would be a great disservice and misguidance on the part of our lieutenant governor and others. And as I'd like to say this politely, it would be, some of our politicians need a good kick in the south end of their northbound trains, if you get my gist, to change their view from what they're wanting to do because they don't like tolls. I hope that we can sort through this in a way that allows this agency to move forward and to continue to do the job that this community needs them to do. That being said, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your comments. Any other citizens' comments? Okay, hearing none. Chair's comments. First of all, let me say I want to apologize to the members of the MDX. I recently wrote a letter to the state, some state legislators about a plan that I had, and in it said that I was mayor of Miami-Dade County and the board of, and the chairman of the board of MDX. That letter should not have said chair of the board of MDX, because that was my opinion in my capacity as mayor of Miami-Dade County. So for you board members, I want to apologize for that oversight. Any future letters and every subsequent letter since then has clearly stated when it's an MDX matter, it was as the chair of MDX, and when I was speaking as the mayor of Miami-Dade County, I wrote it as mayor of Miami-Dade County. I did have a proposal, counter proposal, and a different idea as to the way that we can get significant toll reduction here in Miami-Dade County. I know you all know that this agency is under attack, and by certain legislators and the state legislature itself. But I believe that what they're doing is not sufficient enough, and actually putting the target on the wrong agency. And so the agency which I wish to create is an agency that not only encompasses MDX, but also encompasses the Turnpike. The Turnpike is the cash cow. The Turnpike has had a 40% increase in toll rates since a law was passed back in 2009 that allowed for a cost of living adjustment on all state roads in the Turnpike. At the Turnpike Authority itself has over $840 million in cash that not tied to any particular project. The Turnpike tolls its truckers at a rate double ours when you're talking about the large trucks with the five axles. And so when we looked at the Turnpike, it really was the cash cow. And if you really want to give toll reduction to the people of Miami-Dade County, I think you do it in the right way, a way that all of the projects can be completed, the Kendall Parkway can be completed. You don't initiate tolls within a toll like the Turnpike's about to do within its express lanes. You cease the cost of living adjustment that the state has. As a matter of fact, one of the things that they tout in this new legislation is there won't be any cost of living adjustment here at MDX. We have no cost of living adjustment here at MDX. We haven't had a rate increase here since 2014. The state of Florida, though, has a cost of living adjustment every single year. They can put that behind for about 5 years, but then they have to roll it. They have to roll all the previous year's cost of living adjustments into it. And like I said, the Turnpike has increased its tolls by 40% since 2009. I think that's when the bill was passed. The express lanes on I-95 is another great example. The tolls started there at 25 cents minimum, $7 maximum. It's now at 50 cents minimum and $14 maximum. That's a 100% increase. And we've been asking to find out where that money goes, and we don't know where that money goes. Under the proposal that I have, 100% gross, 100% of the gross money spent by the people of Miami-Dade County here on MDX roads and also the Turnpike roads, if they combine the system, will be spent here and maintained here in Miami-Dade. We can give a 20% reduction immediately. We can stop the CPI increases. That will save our residents $8.5 billion in the next 33 years, compared to probably less than $2 billion for what they're trying to do right now, even with 25% reduction. And so that's the gist of my recommendations, my proposal to the state. They've taken it a little bit personal. They really need to look at what we're trying to do. And one other thing that, I am the chair here, but I will say the reason I came here is because I felt we needed more elected officials. One of the complaints that we had was that we weren't accountable to the people. And you are fine board members. There's nothing personal in anything that I've said or that I've written. But I do believe that the majority of the people that constitute a board such as ours should be elected so that they have to face the people every once in a while. And that's the reason why I came here. And so with that, I'm willing to take any comments, any questions, and then we can move on with the rest of the agenda. Yes, Board Member Martinez.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, thank you for apologizing for the, I believe it was an innocent error when it came to the letter that you were, because if you looked at the body, none of the body referred to your involvement as the chair of the Expressway Authority. One of my great concerns, however, and there are a few things I want to touch on. First, in principle, I agree with you. I think local control of both the Turnpike as well as MDX should be in our hands because the dollars should all be spent here. Like we've been spending 100% of what we collect on our roadways here in Miami-Dade County. I respectfully disagree with you insofar as the makeup of the board because I believe that if you are in a unique situation, as the mayor of Miami-Dade County, your jurisdiction is the entire county. It's from Homestead all the way south. However, other elected officials, they'll be influenced, as they are, we see now, by where they are elected. The mayor of Miami Gardens will be elected, and they will be concerned with what is in the best interest of their position. That is one of the issues that's always a great concern when you have all elected officials. The other big issue that I have is, as you have been proposing your recommendation on what you wish to go forward, we're not talking about the positive things that MDX has done and why this entire attack is a personal attack and has nothing to do with anything relating to this board. And I'll give you an example. We have created over 25,000 jobs. We've put more than $1 billion worth of infrastructure into this entity. And as mayor of Miami-Dade County, as a board member, I am very limited in my ability to express these issues because the way the bylaws are currently written, you're the spokesman. And you've known me long enough to know that I respect the rules, and I am going to defer to that position. But there's a lot of wonderful things that we've done here, whether the legislators in Tallahassee agree with us or not. And I think there needs to be some information that should be brought out in that capacity. If you read the amendments that have been passed on, some of the amendments that were done by the Representative Avila in this case, a lot of what they claim to do as far as toll reductions now is in flux. They require an Auditor General's report to determine the feasibility of toll reductions now. They are specifically barring the current board members from, or any board members from applying for this new organization. This has nothing to do with us doing something wrong or us not working right. It has everything to do with they don't feel like we play ball with them the way they want us to play ball. And that's why we were created. We were created to be apolitical, and I believe we've accomplished that. And we are respectfully held accountable. The county commission appoints half the members here. The other members are appointed by the governor. you replace someone that was previously on the board. So if the county commission is dissatisfied with any of the board members here, or if the governor is dissatisfied, we are held accountable because they can remove us. More importantly, and I think this is something that is not mentioned, every member of the board that voted in favor of the toll increase that is in dispute, that started this issue, this adjustment, whatever term you want to use, increase, adjustment, but they all are no longer on the board. All 7 people were removed from the board, either by the county commission, by attrition, or other things. So they were held accountable for the decisions they made by either the county commission or by the governors who appointed different people. So if nothing else, I think we need to consider modifying the bylaws to allow board members to speak on behalf of the board, at least in this situation, so that we can speak in favor of it, not in any way in disagreement with your position, but I think we should be allowed to talk about the positive things about MDX. And like I said, in principle, I agree with you. I think I think all dollars collected in Miami-Dade should be in Miami-Dade hands. So that's just basically where I stand on those issues.
I think you have valid arguments. That we may disagree on the composition, we may disagree, but you have valid arguments, okay? I have no problem with that. If the board decides that it wants to amend its bylaws and then allow other board members to go out and to explain to, I don't want to say defend, there's nothing to defend here, all right? The actions of this board that I've seen are really, there's nothing to defend here. This board doesn't raise its tolls. It hasn't raised its tolls since 2014. This board reduced the toll by 5%. This board refused to incorporate a cost of living adjustment.
Correct.
So if that's our sin, then I guess that's our sin, okay? But I'll tell you what, I'll stand by that position 100, every day and twice on Sunday, unlike what the state of Florida is doing. And so I think if you want to amend the bylaws, I don't know what the procedure is, Mr. Executive Director, so that our other board members can speak and go out. I think you've heard me a little bit on radio and TV, and I will continue to go out on radio and TV, pushing what I think is the right thing to do. And you're absolutely right. This law is changing. It's changing every day. And now you have to do a study, I guess,
Correct.
before
That's exactly
you reduce the rates, which, by the way, that's the right thing to do. Because the one things that we don't want to do is affect the work program and not affect the Kendall Parkway. And so we've been pretty vocal about the fact that a 25% reduction with MDX or even a 20% reduction with MDX will basically kill the Kendall Parkway, will drastically affect the work program. The only reason that under the plan that, that I put forward, it actually works with a 20% reduction is because we get the turnpike, that's the cash cow. One thing I didn't say also was that while the turnpike is 11% of the lane miles here in Miami-Dade County, we comprise 11% of the lane miles of the turnpike, we comprise about 17% of the revenue, which means they're generating per lane mile about 50% more than the average of the rest of the state. And so, there's where the money is being made. And so, we need to keep that money here in Miami-Dade, and we can do a lot of good things. Oh, one final thing. Even with a 20% reduction, even with 20% reduction for everybody, even with a elimination of the CPI, even with an elimination of express lanes, even with reducing the truckers for the most part by 50%, and even with the completion of the work program of both MDX and the Turnpike, we can give back, spin off about $1.85 billion for transit and transit projects in Miami-Dade. The state's current proposal does zero for transit in Miami-Dade County. And so when I say the state, I'm talking about the two legislatures. But that bill is actually going by pretty quick.
Yep.
And it's got a lot of support. Unfortunately, they look at it, the other legislators and senators and legislators, they look at it as a Miami-Dade problem, and you got two Miami-Dade people that are pushing it. And so, do they want to get involved in our food fight? And they think it's a food fight. And they also, it's kind of for me, I don't see it as much on the rest of the state where, the legislatures, your local elected leaders, representatives are actually, fighting the county that they represent. And so, you know, you have valid arguments on your side. If anybody wants to make a motion, is that what it takes, a motion to change the bylaws to allow the members of this board to express their opinions? It's a free country as far as I'm concerned. It's America. I live here. I came here from another country that didn't allow you to express your opinion. I have no problem with you expressing your opinion, so that's it. If you have a motion, you have a second on that?
I'm making a motion.
Motion and a second, okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, you're now free to express your opinion.
And one more thing, Mr. Mayor, that I think is important, you haven't touched on that. When we did our 5% reduction, it was across the board. It was to not only Sun Pass holders, but also to toll-by-plate holders. This legislation doesn't deal with toll-by-plate individuals at all. And what I can tell is, we've done a little quick research, over 554,000 invoices are going to be going out involving toll-by-plates, involving toll-by-plate individuals. 554,000 invoices because of the issue relating to these are toll-by-plate individuals, toll-by-plate. If this legislation passes, and if the Auditor General does what we expect them to do in their recommendation, is that a toll reduction is not feasible, they're not going to get any of this 25% reduction, because it's going to be declared as a rewards program just for Sun Pass holders. And over 100,000 of those individuals live in Hialeah Gardens, Miami Gardens, Medley, and in Doral.
Poetic justice.
So it's important to note that this legislation, when it's talking about toll reduction that they're talking about, we actually went a step further. You pointed that out, actually, when you made the motion to reduce it 5%, that initially the legislation only talked about Sun Pass. We went a step further to give the reduction to the entire, to toll-by-plate individuals as well. This legislation does not do anything for them if the Auditor General does what we expect, that they cannot, it is not feasible to give a reduction. And I think it's important for that to be on the record as well.
Okay. Member Gutierrez?
Thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, I think today you said something that also puts great clarity on it. You said it's a food fight. Absolutely, it is a food fight between those legislators and Miami-Dade, and the food is actually the money. And the fight is all about who controls that money so they can have the kitty to spend it in their, wherever they want to. That's what the food fight is about. But I wanted to ask you, as you've gone on this venture with this great idea that you have with the Turnpike and MDX or the new agency, I think it's important that the Miami-Dade the Miami-Dade Commission is also part of what you're doing, that it is a unified voice, because if it is, then it's a Miami-Dade issue, and that's what it should be. And I think that the state should curve back, especially these individuals that are also from Miami-Dade.
The commission passed a resolution endorsing the plan, the last commission meeting.
So I think that's important, and that needs to get to DeSantis, and it needs, these individuals need to realize that everything that they're doing is not what Miami-Dade wants or needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your apology. Certainly accepted. I think it also allowed us to open up a policy discussion, because when changing the legislature invited your board here and the other commissioner, it was a time for us to have looked at policy as well. Because certainly the makeup has changed now with the leader of our county joining the board. So perhaps that's something we can also look at. And I'll echo Louis' comments on the sentiment of the rest of the board not being fully aligned with yours, although we certainly jump on board with the Turnpike idea, although I refrain from calling it a cash cow. I think it's terms like that that have made people very eerie about tolls. Certainly we want to keep our dollars that we collect, any pennies that we collect on our roadways. I did want to also get on the record my feelings on the bill, and I guess this is as good a time as any. I had only one question for legislators, and that was how this bill actually helps the community, because it doesn't. And for every political tagline they might offer as to how this bill is so wonderful for Miami-Dade County, I can certainly offer factual information that disputes that line. We operate under the sunshine here. This is no different than any other city like Aventura, where I proudly served, where no board member has ever been removed from office. We've never had an executive director be removed from this office. We enjoy a very positive rating in the financial markets. We issue debt, and we have more investors out there wanting, when we issue our bonds, than we have bonds to sell. That's a very admirable and a very unusual to find a setting. So I highlight all of the incredible positives of this agency year and year and year after year, because it's just mind-blowing to me to see a state legislator present a bill in front of this committee and say that much too much is going on wrong in Miami-Dade Expressway Authority for too long, and it's time to stop it. And to have not one single member of that committee challenge and actually asked, oh, there has been? Okay, give me an example of something that has gone wrong in Miami-Dade Expressway Authority. What is it that they're doing wrong? Not one member challenged and asked that question. Now, we all know why, because the answer wasn't there. There isn't a single wrong thing we have done. So I have taken this very personal, because it is a personal attack on every one of us sitting on this board, including you, Mr. Secretary. Every one of us needs to come off, and they start fresh. Our executive director needs to go. Everyone that has worked here will certainly have to go find another job. You have 33 families out there with no jobs out in the street. We're telling the legislature and everybody backing this monstrous bill, this completely unnecessary, unwarranted bill, is having a personal attack against every single person sitting on this dais. And I resent that. And not only an attack on us, but on whoever put us on this chair. So Governor Scott, now Senator Scott, you appointed me to this board. The legislature is saying you made a wrong decision. Every county appointee here is telling the Miami-Dade County Board of Commissioners that they made a wrong decision in putting that person on. The legislature themselves, who 2 years ago had you come on to this board, is saying, now we don't want you on this board, so we made a bad decision 2 years ago. So to me, it's mind-blowing how far this bill has come and how quickly support has been garnered. We all know why, of course, but it's definitely not what is best for the community, and that's how they're selling it. There is no toll relief coming, so now after you present this bill and you garner all this support, and you're all but approved, now you request a financial report to see the feasibility for all of its components. That is not how policy and legislations work, where I come from. And I have news for home rule cities and our home rule counties out there. We're a home rule. We're a special district of Miami-Dade County created by the County Commission years ago. If the legislature can now come and pass some random, completely personal, pissed-off bill, I'll call it, and dismantle us, completely make us go away, who's next? Is it my city of Aventura? We're a home rule city. Can the Florida say, oh, you know what, Aventura, you're no longer a city, we're gonna just completely reset you up. So I hate precedents, and my city in Aventura, we've been so very successful. We've always avoided setting precedents, and the moment the legislature does this, something else is next, someone else is next. It's extremely personal against MDX. You want to do toll relief, do it across the board. We are not the only agency in the state of, like, the gigantic, beautiful state of Florida that has tolls. Where is the Turnpike and their reduction? Where is the I-95 stress lanes that I take every day, paying $10.50 to get downtown on a stretch of 8 miles full of potholes, where I tried to replace my tire already once? Where is that toll reduction going, legislature? If you really want to reduce tolls, then you do it across the board. You don't just single-handedly pick on the one agency who's A-rated in the community until the first negative rating we got in the financial community was last year when this outrageous bill passed. Why? Because they decided to reduce tolls for us, where we're the ones responsible with a fiduciary responsibility, and the market went, wait a minute, you guys have no pull here. There's nothing going on. Now we're looking at a negative rating because of your actions, and now you're making it even worse. So you're solving nothing. And toll payers, residents, if you're not angry about this, it's time to get angry and let your legislators know that this is not what they should be wasting their time on. How about you come up with policy that actually does help the community? That's all.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you very much. Approval of the summary minutes? Been moved, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All right, Executive Director's report.
There's not a lot of, and board members, I do want to address two things.
Mike.
Yeah, it's on. It just doesn't, can you hear me now? I want to address a couple things. 836 projects will be coming to a completion in the next couple months. We will be scheduling a ribbon cutting, and we will be sending out an invite. The community has taken notice of how that project is progressing. They will start seeing the red pavement on the median, which is the first element of the SMART plan going into fruition. The second thing I'd like to address, and I think it's my duty to address it, when we're accused of not being transparent, Mr. Mayor and board members, I think it's incumbent upon me to state certain things as the agency director. Every financial report since I've been at MDX for 12 years is on our website, has been on our website. Our 5-year work programs, our consolidated annual financial reports, our single audit reports pursuant to Florida statute, our performance reports for the Florida Transportation Commission, annual inspection reports that show the toll payers that their system is being maintained to the levels of when we issued debt and what we issued debt for. Our annual budgets are in there every single year. Our monthly treasurer's report is discussed at this board meeting every month and at committee. Traffic and revenue reports, bond information, credit, trust indenture, all bond offerings. That I think it's important to put there and to put it on the record. The last thing I'd like to say, Mayor and board members, is I know my daughter's watching. And I started here when she was 7 years old. And today she's turned 20 years old, so I want to wish her a happy birthday. With that, thank you very much. I know she's watching. Love you, Catherine Ann.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Member Gutierrez?
Thank you. I have questions for the director. Did you get any feedback, any information, any remedy from the state regarding the SunPass issues?
Yes, ma'am. It's in your packet. I included a letter that was drafted by Secretary Thibault to former Senate President, the Honorable Tom Lee, which explains what they're taking, what actions they are taking to cure the operational deficiencies that exist with the current consolidated back office. The other question that was asked of me at the last meeting was what kind of penalties have been assessed. $4.6 million has been assessed to the vendor, and there is a host of issues, a long list, and I've had this conversation with the director of the Turnpike, a long list of issues that are on the table for a global settlement when the system actually operates. As of this month, you'll hear it in the Treasurer's report, we're starting to see the numbers start picking up. It was the first month, I believe, we're in the positive. So the invoices have started to go out. The revenue is starting to come in. I will say that a lot of the fee revenue, a lot of the fees have been waived till post-June, I think June 1st, pursuant to Governor DeSantis. So we will adjust accordingly. I've added all the information in your packets for that. Steve Andriuk and Marie Schaefer are here. We've done the analysis. You'll see it in our financials. One of the big issues, and I'll address this, one of the big issues with the CCSS was the call center. Still, pursuant to the Florida Turnpike Enterprise, the call times are too long. They're beyond 30 minutes. There is a $2.7 million change order that is in the works with the vendor to add customer service agents to reduce that number. The issue is that there are 150,000, repeat, 150,000 service requests in backlog. They're able to go through 2,000 every day, and every day 3,500 are added to it. So it's a losing proposition unless you add significant numbers of CSRs, and I believe, and I've spoken to the Turnpike, regularly, that this is on top of their list. So
I have two more questions, if I may. What are they going to do, or what are we going to do? Don't you think it's an opportunity for us to now pull out of this contract? Because obviously they are a disaster, the state, with this contract. is a disaster. It's totally out of their control. They have no control over the contract. And now the fact that they're going in on June 1st, they've waived all the fees, that means they are hurting this agency. Maybe perhaps that's the reason why these legislators don't want us to be members. We have too much history and know, that's what the cat is. It's all about the money. So what are we going to do to get back the fees that we're now going to be losing?
I asked that question of the Turnpike Director, and that is a item on his list, because it's not just our fees, it's Turnpike's fees, Tampa Hillsborough's fees, and a portion of Central Florida Expressway's fees. So all of that, which is calculated in our financials moving forward, that we have lost and you lose it forever,
Exactly.
are on the list for settlement with the vendor. And I will report back once we know what that is. But I don't think they're going to address any of that until the system is 100% compliant and passes their audit. And there is some questions by Florida Turnpike that the vendor will be able to pass their audits for this fiscal year. And I think that's a concern for the Florida Turnpike enterprise.
That they
So-
can't pass the audit?
And it's very similar, Board Member Gutierrez, with what happened to us and ETCC, where, they couldn't deliver the system that we needed, which was contract compliance, and they couldn't meet the requirements of automated reporting, financial reporting, and meet the system controls and audit controls that were required by contract. I think it's the same issues that are occurring, and I think that the remedies here, though, are that they will fix it, but there's a financial impact, and I think that the Turnpike's going to pursue that financial penalty. I don't know to what extent. A portion of that should come back to this agency.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions of the Executive Director? Okay. Time is now 4:54. We're about to have an attorney-client session in accordance with Florida Statute 286.011 regarding the litigation-styled Miami-Dade Expressway Authority versus the State of Florida, case number CACE-018-CA-2300 in the Florida Circuit Court, Leon County, Florida. The session is estimated to last between 30 to 45 minutes. It could last longer. And the following people will be in attendance at this meeting: myself and board members, those that are present. Louis Martinez, member Shelley Smith-Fano, member James Wolf, member Luz Weinberg, member Maritza Gutierrez, and member Arthur J. Meyer. MDX attorneys, outside counsel Kirk DeLeon, Alexander McLean, and then Javier Rodriguez, the executive director. These proceedings will be recorded by a certified court reporter, and at the conclusion of all litigation discussed, the transcript will be made part of the public record. All those individuals who I have not named should leave this room and reconvene in the, who I have named should leave this room and reconvene in the conference room adjourning these chambers. Thank you. Are not invited to return for any further proceedings or matters. Our next item is the TPO representative report.
There is no report because there was no meeting.
Report. The next one is the treasurer's report.
Oh, sorry, Your Honor. Actually, Your Honor.
We're not in court now. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Your Honor is appropriate for...
I'm honorable, maybe.
Honorable, the honorable. You all have the report in your packets. It's one of the positive things is we're finally seeing some positive uptick between what was budgeted and what was actual as far as our toll revenues. That is something beneficial. We still have a significant variance, and that still has to do, I believe, Steve and Marie, with the fact that we still haven't gotten anything back from the toll by plates that are outstanding from 8 and 9 months back. Is that correct? The variance that we still have that's in the negative for the year?
Yes, because there was some delayed billing, sir.
In your packet, we also received a letter in reference to some other issues in our efforts to try to get information relating to this. That still obviously is not satisfactory to what we're requesting. The governor has now issued a new mandate that he is going to waive, I believe, any fees until June now, I believe. Is that correct, Council? Huh? Till June 1st, so there is more fees that we're not going to be collecting. But if I'm correct as well, Mr. Chairman, and staff can clarify me, we're not paying fees for this to the state as well. So that's an expense that we're not paying to the state for the fees. We would normally have to pay them for this as well? Or am I misunderstanding that?
We are paying whatever our contractual obligation is under the monthly amount.
So even though they're not collecting fees, we're paying fees?
Correct. That is a correct statement.
So that may be something that we should look into and trying to determine. But what's frustrating, Mr. Mayor, is that we're still in the same position. This is obviously difficult because we can't get a straight answer on when this issue is going to get resolved. Very similar to what you've heard insofar as when anyone discuss even this legislation, and I think, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, you've done this many times, they jumble us all into one group, and then but the legislation only deals with MDX. As I indicated earlier, over 554,000 invoices, I believe, are going to be going out to toll-by-plate individuals in Miami-Dade County alone. And we get an answer when this is, we're going to take a brunt of the frustration because our elected officials and others are jumbling the part that is MDX responsibilities with those of the turnpike and the toll as well. But at least we're starting to see some positive. Is there any indication we're going to get anything moving forward involving this, Steve, or are we just going to have to wait until after June?
The expectation, because we're not going to do anything to the customer until June 1st, meaning escalating to collections and so forth, we don't expect the customer to pay until May 30th. The bottom line. And we saw that during the first effort where April 1st was the cutoff. Uptick at the end of March, and then when they moved it to June, then we saw payments slacking off again.
And that's pretty much where we are. And
Makes
obviously,
sense.
we've discussed in detail, and you're well aware on how all of this legislation stuff is affecting our situation with being able to obtain any future debt as well, and it's hurting us in every aspect. I believe we got a negative result for the first time because of this involving our bond rating, and that's kind of very frustrating after not having that issue for the 11 years I've been here.
Very good.
I'll take any questions from the board.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you
sir.
very much. Next item is travel approval, 7A.
Second.
And any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Item number 8A, MDX work program.
Item A, approval of ILA with Miami-Dade County for MDX project number 83611, contract to construct a temporary parking lot for the Department of Corrections, endorsed by the Operations Committee on March 26, 2019.
Do I have a motion? Been moved. Do I have a second?
For discussion only, Your Honor.
Second for discussion only. Go ahead, Member Martinez.
I have a question, counsel, and to staff. Is this something that we need to immediately do at this point, or is this something that we can wait and defer until after we find out what happens with the legislation? Because, Mr. Chair, I'm a little hesitant to do any type of regular agenda items until we get an idea on whether or not this agency is going to be existing in the near future. And I think it would be prudent of us, since it's relatively late, for us to defer all regular agenda items until we have an idea where we stand. I mean, if this is something.
What are we going to construct?
If this is something that needs to be done, then, or if it's for safety purposes, or for the safety and of our clients and our staff, then yes. But if it's something that we can wait until after we get some idea on what's gonna go on with us, I think that's something that, at this point, I'm a little reluctant to move forward. So I'm asking staff to give me their position if this is something that needs to be done immediately, or can it wait until we get a better, clear idea on whether we're going to be here or not?
Hey, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
This is an ongoing construction project. This is an issue for constructability. These are agreements that were already in place with the contractors. It was in the bid documents. The contractors already took this into account, that they were going to have this property available for construction. I don't believe that a 30-day delay will impact that critical. Having said that, I think this is something that we've committed to, and I think we should follow through. It's already been it's part of the agreements and contracts that we've entered into, board members.
So based upon that, I take the temperature of the remaining members of the board. Do you wish to go forward, or should we wait? And I'm going to suggest less than 30 days between now and the next board meeting at the end of this.
Thank you. My question would be, how long does it take to construct?
This is related to the portion of construction on the 836 by the Department of Corrections near downtown. This is for the westbound, I believe it's the westbound ramp that's coming from I-95. That's part of their Phase 1 construction that's going to start now, so that's going to be under construction for a few months. So that's something that's probably going to be going on now over the next 4 or 5 months. As the director stated, this is something that had already been contemplated with temporary construction easements, and it's already been contemplated under the project. The ILA only spells out the specifics on what we're going to do with the area that we are interrupting as part of staging, and how we are going to be replacing a parking facility for the Department of Corrections. Everything else has already been accounted for, so the ILA is really just to work signifies what we've agreed to in terms of how we're going to mitigate the area that we're going to be disturbing.
But how long will it take for you to build this temporary parking lot?
I believe they'll clean it out. It'll probably take about 2 weeks to 30 days to get it all done.
All right. So, I have an opinion on it. So my opinion is if it's a 2-week project, yeah, probably ought to do it. If it's a 2-year project, I think you're right. Probably ought to wait and see what happens. All right.
Okay.
So that's my opinion. Any other opinions? Anybody else chime in? Yeah.
We're going to have a number of issues of routine business, and to the degree possible, we should continue with our routine business. This was already agreed to. There's no impact on our finances. We need to go forward. The bill has potential impact on a lot of active construction projects, and I would hope that we take every effort to make everything go as smoothly as possible, regardless of the outcome.
Okay. Member Gutierrez, yes?
I think this is a minimal project. I would worry, actually, on the signature project, because it's a lot of money that MDX has to give to the signature project. That one I worry, because isn't Tallahassee wanting 20% toll reduction, or they're not doing any toll relief? Because if they do toll relief, I don't see how the finances will give to the signature bridge. So I think we need to start some analysis on what's going to happen, because I think we're going to be on default on paying the next bill for your signature bridge, Mr. Secretary.
Well, I think the state is paying its own bills on the signature bridge. I think it's our part of the entire project. Okay, that's where the problem's going to come. And we need to know. Look, we know pretty well what the impact of these toll reductions are. We know it. We've studied it. I'm not so sure that some of our friends up in Tallahassee have studied it and know what the true impact of it is. Maybe that's why they changed the law a little bit to have an analysis done by the Florida Department of Transportation and I guess their bond folks. But I think this is a minor project. It's something. It's a 2-week. Yeah, we need to do it. We need to continue. One of the things we don't want is an interruption in the work program. That's been one of the driving forces why I'm going out there, because I believe that what's been proposed will be an interruption to the work program, will affect negatively the Kendall Parkway, which is so vital to the people of Miami-Dade and especially West Kendall. But this is 2 weeks. I don't think that this is going to be a big deal.
And like I said, Mr. Mayor, I was just proposing it. If the rest of the board feels comfortable, then I have no objection to going forward. That's why I seconded the.
Okay. Any other discussion on it? Okay. It's been moved and seconded, and all in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? Okay. Moving on.
Item B, approval of toll relief for active duty military personnel on MDX roadways. This was to be endorsed by the Financial Policy and Planning Committee on 4/11, but it was never heard.
It was never heard?
No, sir. We didn't have the meeting.
Do not have a quorum.
Quorum.
Not have a quorum, okay. Look, I think it's important that we do this, but I also think it needs to go through the regular process. So, you know, the next time when is the next committee meeting?
Tentatively scheduled for May 28th, right before the next board meeting, unless the board has a meeting prior to that, at which time we will just schedule the financial
Okay.
committee meeting.
All right, so, I mean, that's my druthers. I don't know that if you all have a separate, opinion, if somebody wants to move it and second, and we can, take a vote. Well, okay, it's moved by Member Fano. Any second?
If I may.
Sure.
Mayor, I've worked with and unfortunately, it took a long time to come to the board. It should have come to the Financial Committee the other day. Unfortunately, there wasn't quorum. We do find that happens a lot now with our smaller board. And this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. These folks are out there doing things for all of us. And I think it would be nice that we showed our respect and our concern and things that they are doing for us. And if it goes to, I mean, most of the people that are on the Finance Board Committee are here. So,
Can we get some information on the program itself?
yeah.
Need
Yeah,
a
go ahead.
second. She moved it, need a second. Need a second to discuss.
The specifics of the
Oh, okay,
program.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. What are they? Could somebody tell me what the specifics of the program are?
Yes.
And the math behind
So
it.
the program is pretty consistent to the cashback program. It's a 15% rebate. There is, they have to come and, qualify for the program to register for the first time, show us that they're active military. There's no cap to it, and there's no minimum threshold. So that's the difference between the military program and the cashback program.
We did reach out to the Public Affairs Office of both South Command and the
Homestead?
Coast Guard, and they have a
Homestead Air
total of
Force
about
Base Stadium.
7,500 personnel, where we think about 75% would probably come into the program, and at a 15% reduction in tolls, we figured the cost would be under $500,000 a year.
Okay. Okay, under 500,000. I'm actually gonna support this, and I'll tell you why. I had discussions with the commander of Southcom, and he's saying that Miami-Dade County, he's got military personnel that are finding it difficult here, and it's not because of tolls, it's because of the cost of living of Miami-Dade County. And so I think anything that we can do in order to ease their burden, I think would be good for them, and they are active duty military personnel serving our country. Yeah, I can support that. Okay. Any
that
further
mean you're
discussion?
seconding
Yes,
the motion?
Member Gutierrez?
Say one thing.
No, I just had some questions to continue the question.
Go ahead.
But we don't have a second before you discuss. Just
I'll second it.
He seconded.
I didn't hear that.
Something to.
Yeah.
So the other difference is this program would be automatically credited back to the SunPass account. It wouldn't be a check. It would actually, so they would get it actually faster. So that's how this program would be procedurally done, if that's okay.
Okay.
So there's no cap, no minimum,
Right.
and it's automatic deduction. And it'll cost us $500,000 each
Roughly.
year.
Roughly.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
And how do you know that the person driving is actually the vet? How is that being managed, or can?
You don't.
You don't?
The veteran, it's not the veteran, they're active duty personnel. I guess you consider them a veteran as well, but active duty personnel would have to come in, provide their identification card. Usually they'll have a copy of their orders that puts them here in Miami for a duration. That would then establish them as a member. That one vehicle, that one transponder would be the only vehicle allowed, and there's really no other way to police it at that point.
Okay. So, I'm coming back for more. So, one vehicle, one member, one time. Do you have an idea what the administrative cost is to run this program?
If for verification purposes of them having to come to MDX. That'd be the only aspect of what the team that I have today that handles customer service would be able to do. I figured about 1.5 to 2 full-time equivalent to handle this during the entire year. Outside of that, the rest would be at the SunPass account level. So there really would not be any administrative costs related to that. It would be automatic. When that transaction went through, their account would be flagged as an MDX military discount and would receive that 15% discount immediately.
Okay, one last question. Further define that active duty. Is it the vets that have fought wars? Is it?
No.
Who is it? Who is it?
Active duty personnel, they all have to have an identification card that distinguishes them as an active duty personnel. They also have orders. This is a specific document that places them under active duty here in Miami-Dade County, and it gives a duration of when they report and for how long. Being in the military, I know all.
When the,
Hold on,
I
hold on.
was gonna
Hold on.
say-
She still has the floor.
So in other words, a Coast Guard falls into that.
Yes.
Yes, they're DOD.
Someone that is always an employee of the Coast Guard falls in that active duty concept,
They are a full-time active duty Coast Guard
right?
service member, I guess, not
An
employee.
Avila or Manny.
That's the reservist.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yes. Board member? You had an issue?
no, I was going to ask if that was when the program benefit will then sunset. If they bring their orders, and this is how long I'm going to be, I'm here through this September 1st, 2022, is the program in the system automatically terminating on that date?
That's the way we plan on
Or do
programming.
we have to administratively now remember that we have to be constantly checking?
The plan is to have a subscription period for when it starts and when it ends.
Okay. Okay.
This way, you don't have to have the service member come back every year if he's here for 3 years.
I have a question.
Yeah, Secretary Wolf.
Some of the service members will have a spouse, they'll have a family car, that car will have a transponder. Is the spouse receiving the rebate appropriate? There'll be no way to control that.
No, and the way that I saw that was if the spouse drives her soldier or his soldier to work and uses that car, that one car gets the discount regardless.
Yeah, but now the spouse, I'm not going to say male or female, I'm a little bit discreet about that, but the spouse is driving the vehicle separately. I rather than have them be in a situation where there's nothing we can do about it so that it'll be free, I'd like to recognize that we're registering a vehicle of the military, and it is appropriate for the spouse to use the vehicle.
I would agree. Thank you.
Member Gutierrez again.
Yes, there's no other way. I mean, there's no other policing. But what I understood is it's one active member, and there's one pass that is being discounted to them or her, okay? So if the wife is using that vehicle, or the son or the daughter, that's irrelevant, because it's his vehicle, he's the one or she's the one. It would happen. It would happen. There's no other policing. For that, you just give a discount of that magnitude to everybody. And then you are not discriminating what type of position they are. But it's a good idea to give something to the military.
Board Member Alfano.
The objective is to provide relief for active military. And I understand what you're saying about the spouse, but I don't know how we can police that. The bottom line is it will help their families. Thank you very much for listening to me.
That's what it is. It is essentially a family discount. So it's when they come in to register the vehicle, they are registering to that transponder as a vehicle for which they hold the title. So That we do have that, we would have that in place.
We would have that information.
I can't come in and, I'm a military person, I can't come in and register my daughter's car because, sometimes I drive it, I don't really have a car. No, I have to have a vehicle that is registered to me. Okay. And then if whoever uses it in the household, then yes, it is a household benefit. I mean, they do struggle too when the military serves. So, yes, yeah.
I don't have a problem. One, the military personnel, and if the family uses the vehicles so much, the better. I mean, I don't think we can do enough for our military personnel, to be honest with you. You're welcome. Okay. Any questions anymore? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor of this item signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, very good. Informational report, procurement report?
They're in your file for information. Any questions on any executed contracts or any other procurement? Staff is available to answer the questions.
We have announcements. The next board meeting is on May 28th at 4 p.m., but seeing what's ever happening in Tallahassee, we may call for a board meeting, prior to that. It's all really whatever happens in Tallahassee, so we need to, we may have to just discuss what's happening in Tallahassee before the 28th. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I can make a suggestion, if staff could start, I think we should set up a board meeting the week after the end of session. Staff can now start getting dates that are the best for board members so that we're not rushing to do this at the last second, so we have an idea where everybody is as far as that time period. So rather than set it for the 28th, I would suggest that I anticipate we're going to be sitting here right after session having some serious discussions.
Probably.
Okay, so if it's acceptable to you, if staff could start trying to get dates right after, that week after, so that we can do it now and not wait until the last second, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Okay, that's the wishes of the board? I think it's
Absolutely.
a good idea? Yeah, okay, we will do that. One thing I want to make very clear, that regardless of what happens at the state, that I will continue to pursue my idea of creating a unified MDX and Turnpike Authority, whether it be us or some other entity, because that's the one way that we really can give total relief to the people of Miami-Dade County. If you read very carefully now the new proposal, the 25% is an aspirational goal. It's a goal, it's not set. So because now they have put the projects in, they've given some priority to projects. Again, we don't know what the new board will do. It's highly doubtful that they can get to 25% and still complete the program of MDX. Whereas if we do combine with the Turnpike, and by the way, there is law that allows that to happen. There's state law that allows a local agency to acquire the Turnpike Authority. The Central Florida Expressway Authority right now is in negotiations to try to do that, except that the Turnpike Authority wants to charge them $5 billion for a road that's already been paid probably 2 or 3 times over. So we need to do that here. We need to control our own destiny. We need to control our own toll dollars. And it's without a doubt that I use the analogy of how you boil a frog. And you boil a frog, you don't throw them into a boiling pot of water. You actually throw them into a very nice warm pot, and then you slowly turn up the heat. The CPI is the heat. The CPI is what's being slowly turned up, and guess what? We're the frogs, okay? And so the state of Florida, that's what the state of Florida is doing to us. And I'm going to continue on this battle, and I'm going to shine the light on where the culprit is here, where the real culprit is here, where the money is leaving this town. And it's not MDX. It's the state, and it's the Turnpike Authority, with all due respect, Mr. Secretary. And no matter what anybody does, I'm not going to shut up, and I'm not going to be quiet, and I'm not going to be deferential. Just to let everybody know where I'm at right now. You all can do what you want because you now have the power to say and do what you want about all the good things you're doing. I'm going to be telling the people about the bad things that are happening here in Miami-Dade County and who the real culprit is. And what we need to do is control our own destiny right here. How it's created, that's a subject of debate and all that, but our money needs to stay in this town. And I'm talking about $8.5 billion that needs to stay here in this town, or actually, not in this town, in the pockets of our residents. In the pockets of our residents. And so, again, I'm going to be fighting this, and I guess the reason they don't want any elected officials on the new board, I'm sorry, I must be the culprit. The fact that I can go out in the public, and you're going to hear me on TV, you're going to hear me on radio, and after they pass this, no matter what they pass, you're going to hear me on TV, and you're going to hear me on radio, okay? So I want to let you know so that you're prepared for what I'm about to do, what I have been doing, and what I'm going to continue to do until I'm no longer the mayor. But you know what? I am running for something else. So no matter what, I'll probably be around. So thank you very much. Any adjournment? We okay to adjourn?
We're adjourned.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
not alone, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the other thing that's important is you have invited those legislators to debate you on literally every show you are on. And they haven't accepted your opportunity to debate you on the numbers anywhere.
Because they know their numbers are right. Because we have our chief financial officer of the county has checked the numbers. We have our own financial advisors that actually advise this board and the county and numerous other agencies that have checked the numbers. The numbers work. They don't know their numbers. They change their numbers all the time as the consequences of their actions actually come to light. What also bothers me tremendously is, I asked for meetings with the legislature, with Representative Avila and Senator Diaz for months before they wrote the legislation. For months before they wrote the legislation, they didn't give me a meeting. They probably didn't give any of us a meeting. After they wrote the legislation, I asked her for weeks. I actually got to them maybe a week or so before the session started. We could have hashed this out a long, long time ago. We could have also advised them of all the negative repercussions, all of the unintended consequences that they were writing into the bill. They still haven't figured it out. They still have a bunch of unintended consequences, and they're going to continue to hurt the people of Miami-Dade County. I'm going to continue to fight for them. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.